Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Yeah, it's my time, yo time. Step into the spotlight. Get lit, yo. Let yourself go. On time, high time. Gotta go big time. This is it, yo. Never take no flight time. Grind time. Take it to the street time. Turn the roof off. Get loco. Game time, win time. We gon' bring it home time. No regrets now. Let it all go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder.
Well, good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson, and of course with tonight is Techy-ish. How are you, darling?
Well, a little vampirically light. Let's see if we can fix that. We had a power outage briefly today, which always resets my light, and I always forget to double check it when we do that.
And to make sure that you haven't lost Vampiro.
I know.
It's been an interesting time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially today, because I think a good chunk of the state into Virginia, and possibly I think even like Kentucky and Ohio were hit with that severe storm warning earlier.
Just a few.
Well, that, and then we've got vandals.
Well, we've got that.
In part of the state,
we got that. It's been fun. So yeah, we were without internet for a good while today.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
So was having a client have an issue right as the internet went out.
It was interesting. It's like, okay, let's switch to backups. Well, this worked for about 20 minutes, and of course, backups failed. Why did backups fail? Because everyone else has gotten the backup.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot hitting that tower, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of businesses were down as well.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it was mid-afternoon on a Friday. Like, that's a lot to ask anywhere. Just
True.
Anywhere, that's a lot. So, yeah. There's always that.
Yeah, there's always that. There's always that fun of that. All right, guys, you guys, if you want to, you can Cash App or Venmo us coffee. You can always buy your host coffee, and that is no recurring thing. That is a one-time thing. This is something we're new adding to the session by demand.
Absolutely.
And this has been an interesting week. Now, last night I talked about Saturn and retrograde.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you this story, and you said it was bullshit. And I'm like, no, this is real.
I couldn't believe it could be real. There was no way. It sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. All right. Like, it does. It, like, hilarious until you find out that, no, this happened. This happened. Oh.
So the one we're going from is from the...
The Independent?
No, the Economic Times out of India. Very sadly, elephant kills woman in Odessa. Was the original news article. This article was what was being reported at first. I'm like, okay, this is kind of common in Odessa. They have a lot of wildlife there. They have a lot of different things that occur. Doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary. It's like cop runs chases car through Beckley. Like normal. But you get into the story, and it's developed over a few days. The story has been updated for at least for the past week.
Yeah, like there seems like every time it sounds like the story should be done,
Mm-hmm.
it's not.
No, because more keeps coming out.
Oh yeah. Well, more keeps happening.
Well,
Like,
it's all happened. I think that they've got everybody to the corners.
we hope.
We hope.
Like, that's the scary part, is we hope.
Right.
We hope everyone is like done now.
Right.
I mean, it's unfortunate for the older woman, though. Then again, argumentatively, she may have brought some of this on herself.
Right.
So it turns out that if you jump into an animal enclosure at a zoo, we are unsurprised
Right.
when you get attacked by said animals. Just because they're at a zoo does not mean that they are tame.
Right.
When you poach from animals, apparently animals occasionally go, fuck you. That's what they do. They come right back on you.
Yes.
And that is what happened here. It would seem.
Right, because it's being reported that the 70-year-old woman, who is still unnamed, was a part of a poaching.
Oh no, Maya Murmuru.
Oh, that's her name? I was thinking it was the town.
No. Maya Murmu, a resident of Rapal Village, was ferociously attacked by an elephant in the forest nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So, according to the reports, the woman was taken to the hospital in critical condition, where she later died. After the medical formalities and post-mortem, her family and neighbors brought her home for her last rites. While the preparations were ongoing, the elephant returned in an extremely aggressive mood. The villagers ran for their lives while the tusker attacked the dead woman's corpse, trampling her ferociously. The elephant then started roaring, inciting others in the herd to attack the village as well.
Uh-huh.
It then attacked her house in the village, smashing it and killing the goats as well. The herd then attacked several other houses, consuming their grains. The villagers said they ran away when the herd came charging, and when they came back, they witnessed the elephant lifting the body and destroying it brutally.
Mm-hmm.
So elephant attacks are common in many parts of the Odisha, since a large area is covered with forest. Although the reason for such an attack is not yet known, it has fired the discussion about the vengeful behavior of animals towards the humans who cross their territories. Elephants have a long memory, and several such attacks have been considered acts of revenge over the poaching activities, especially in Kenyan villages. Scientists have even said that due to poaching and competition for territories, elephants might even have grown to dislike humans in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
These are not your circus animals who get trained with beating. Like, I'm thinking Russian elephants.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with Russian elephants. Russian elephants fuck with you. That's what I'm.
Right. So the other common reports is this elephant has been sighted at elephant rescue areas.
Mm-hmm.
And in between the time that she was in the hospital and they had the funeral, it was at a rescue 120 miles away.
I don't mean to sound horrible, but I don't think this elephant needs rescuing. Like, I think this elephant is a badass bitch and can take care of herself.
This elephant is more than a badass bitch. This elephant is like, fuck you and the horse you rode into. You attempted to steal my children. I'm going to come after you and your village. Yeah. Now, what's even scarier is the elephants do operate off of some scent. I'm wondering if they are now placing the family of this lady in elephant protectiveness, i.e., moving them out of the area that an elephant can find themselves. And
I don't know.
have a question.
Well, no. Here's my thing though. I don't know that this is like WITSEC for elephant poachers that is needed. I think this is more like a shunning by a village of like, do not bring that shit with you.
Uh-huh.
No, 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 no. We do not fuck with the elephants.
And then I'm wondering if this elephant's available for hire out.
Oh, no. No. The last thing, I'm sorry, 2022 and attack elephants. Like, Jesus Christ. Do we need anything else?
No,
Like,
I mean,
killer
try
bees, gas prices of mass destruction. Like, good God. Like,
Well,
I literally said the phrase this morning, like, because I was having to stop on my way to, like, drop someone off. I had to get gas and then get to an appointment. And I actually uttered the phrase this morning, well, I need to put $20 of, worth of gas in the car. At least at these prices, it'll go in quickly. And I went, damn, it's true, but damn. Like, I remember when 20 was a full tank on some vehicles. Anyone else having this moment?
Yep.
Like, I got us below a quarter of a tank. Not above, not a quarter of a tank, but just below a quarter of a tank on $20.
Do you realize I used to spend $20 to come see you every weekend?
Yeah, apparently that would now work if I lived on the other side of town.
True. But no, we have this problem. We have three problems in this country right now. We have gun-toting humans that have an issue. We have schools trying to arm teachers. And we have elephants that are in retirement sanctuaries that are bored.
Why must you blend these three things together?
Well, I've got a solution.
I see where you're going. Everyone sees where you're going. I don't know that schools having trained attack elephants, tactical assault elephants, if you will, is really gonna be the thing we need.
Why? Because not only will they take care of any attempted ambush to the school, but they will go and show you the house they was in.
No, tactical assault elephants are not the solution.
One in the other.
To any problem, except for poaching.
One in the other independence. It has shown, elephants are very wonderful tactical assault people.
I mean, no. This won't end well.
Oh, I think it'll end with a lot of peanuts. Then maybe we won't have to have a peanut butter recall.
There is that. Like, what is up with that? Like, I saw something about it, but I didn't see everything about it. Like, what is going on with peanut butter?
Let me see what they've done to peanut butter.
I know. I'm looking it up, too, because I just haven't gotten there. It was like, okay, a truck hauling peanut butter catches fire. That was a day ago. Oh, there we go. MLive has it. Empty shelves why tampons, sriracha, and peanut butter are in short supply. Oh, the weird combo of things. Like, first it was toilet paper, then lumber, chicken wings, and cream cheese. And now tampons, sriracha, hot sauce, and peanut butter are hard to find. Shortages are ongoing more than 2 years into the panini as manufacturers continue to deal with battered supply chains, uneven consumer demand, and unpredictable weather conditions. When you get all these changes in demand and delays because of the panini, it makes it hard to rebuild your supply chain, said John Taylor, professor of global supply chain management at Wayne State University. Michigan shoppers have been seeing sporadic empty grocery store shelves since March 2020, but a recent survey from Retail Insight found that 71% of U.S. consumers think shortages are worse now than in the early days of panic buying. Here's why some items might be hard to find these days. Where are all the tampons? Tampons are the latest victim to supply chain crisis that has plagued manufacturers for 2 years. Barren shelves now greet customers looking for menstrual products, with one Twitter user documenting the scarcity by saying, The tampon shortage has made it to northern Michigan. First reported by Time, the shortage is the latest blow to women after a shuttered Abbott plant led to a baby formula crisis. A Walgreens spokesperson confirmed there are brand-specific tampon shortages in certain parts of the country, while CVS Retail Communications Manager Matt Blanchette said suppliers have been unable to fulfill the full quantities of orders in recent weeks. Lack of raw materials like cotton and plastic are reportedly responsible for the production issues. So moving on down, rest in peace to a hot sriracha summer. Sriracha fans might be scrambling to stock up this summer. Hoi Fong Foods, the company that produces the hot sauce with a cult-like following, confirmed an unprecedented shortage of its chili products. This will affect production of chili garlic, sambal olik, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and sriracha hot chili sauces. We are still endeavoring to resolve this issue that has been caused by several spiraling events, including unexpected crop failure from the spring chili harvest. So that is where we are on hot sauce. Now moving right along. Peanut butter is also hard to come by these days, but this shortage is unrelated to supply chains. Nearly 50 types of creamy, crunchy, and natural Jif peanut butter were recalled in late May by J.M. Smucker Company due to potential salmonella contamination. 16 illnesses across a dozen states have been connected to the recall, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Although the recall only impacts Jif products, photos on social media show vacant shelves as customers gobble up other brands of peanut butter. They just presume there's going to be a shortage when the nature of the demand is not there.
Well, not only that, but what's even hurting more here is that products that are connected with peanut butter are being recalled.
Right. No. Well, because you got to realize, like, J.M. Smucker is a huge company, and they don't just make your jar o' peanut butter.
Right.
Like, I am sure they are supplying companies as well.
Right. So this is a chain reactional problem because, like, Built bars the protein bars, of course, have peanut butter in them. They've had to recall their bars. Now, Built bar is really good. They do some sponsorships. I've actually bought a few of them. They're quite tasty, but they're real on recall. Prairie City Bakery had to recall their peanut butter chocolate chip ooey gooey butter cups due to potential contamination.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like one after the other. I mean, I'm looking here, and it is anywhere between 2 and 3 products being recalled from the FDA daily. And I'm like, are we in Victorian times, y'all? I'm going to go ahead and share off this link to the FDA. So if you are wondering if you got anything that needs to be took back.
Yeah, check your cabinets, please. Salmonella does not get better with time.
Nor does it get better with children. Or the elderly.
Oh, God, no. But now, going back to Michigan and the baby formula shortage, there's more problems. So the plant that they reopened just got flooded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no win there.
No.
Like, it just keeps getting worse. And here's the thing. Going all the way back to college.
Mm-hmm.
All the way back to college. When we used to talk about supply chain management, like, there was this theory that when we were talking about that, we talked about, like, things that can go wrong for a business. I'm just going, who the hell did they hire to manage their supply chain for that company that you are this screwed?
Right.
Like, this is, and again, I understand this is, in these unprecedented times, as we've been saying for a couple of years now, like, it's very precedented at this point, is that no,
right,
you've got to be way more resilient. And I do have to go back to like what we're seeing is the Toyota model
Mm-hmm.
of
Blow up.
just-in-time inventory blowing up because most of the people who implemented it fucked it up.
Yeah.
Because even Toyota initially screwed up.
You're right.
Like it's a great concept, but what it is meant to do is reduce your overhead cost by not carrying and needing space for a crap ton of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but even Toyota realized, okay, that while it sounds great, isn't your best choice.
Right.
Like you have to marry the two concepts of having, just enough inventory
Mm-hmm.
and understanding what that number is.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much slack can you do you need in your supply chain,
Mm-hmm.
and how much can you afford in your supply chain?
Right.
To find the happy medium between running your costs too high
Mm-hmm.
and stopping production.
Right.
Like here's the nature of the game. If you are running a production business
Mm-hmm.
that takes in raw materials and converts them
Right.
into a finished product, and then more importantly, that finished product turns into raw materials for another product,
Mm-hmm.
or an input at least for another product, you end up with this series of cascading failures
Right.
in
And
that supply chain.
right. And see, this is a problem I spoke about probably about 2.5 years ago, when they were shutting the border down and locking things down, and crops were dying in the fields.
Mm-hmm.
The American workers depend a lot on, the American economy depends a lot on migrant workers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow migrant workers into the country, no one's going to pick your apples or your peanuts or whatever else. Now we are 2 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So we have crops that did not come in. We have crops that were destroyed. We have crops that were not used. We had crops that were not everything,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been sold to companies.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not have it to produce. I find it interesting that they're running low on cotton, that they're running low on peanuts. They're running low on strawberries. Florida, apparently there's a shortage of strawberries in Florida.
Yeah. Like it doesn't, but like here's the thing, it doesn't there's a problem with just in time.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And that's what's happened here is like this has gotten so lean
mm-hmm.
that it doesn't work anymore. Like you don't have enough excess supply to keep functioning while you fix it.
Right, and it's not that they don't have enough excess supply. It's that the supply in itself isn't refilling. It isn't like they didn't pick for a week.
Mm-hmm.
No, they took 2 years. 2 years. 1 year, farmers didn't even plant because they couldn't get it in. The year before, it just rotted in the fields because we have stationized and grew our fields so much to be controlled by single situations, and then we have border patrol locking up people and their children and not allowing them in as migrant workers. So we have major issues, and this is how everything gets tied into your jar of peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, Orange Dungle Beanie instructed the border guards to lock up the people crossing over to pick your peanuts, because none of you in America want to go pick peanuts, and then go pick strawberries, and then go pick cotton, and then go harvest the apples, and then come back down and harvest that, this, that, and another. That's normally handled by low-wage migrant workers,
Mm-hmm.
also known as undocumented residents. We have a panini. We have a border issue.
Mm-hmm.
Staple those together.
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, you don't have peanut butter, you don't have cotton, you don't have supplies for the ladies. other than maybe some dark chocolate that was imported. You are
that
going to have other supplies. Your food has gone skyrocketing and has jack shit to do about inflammation. It's the limited supply, high demand.
Well, and then here's the next tack on is after, multiple shortages,
Uh-huh.
we've all become reactionary consumers.
Yeah.
Every time we see a segment of an aisle start to dry up in terms of product, even if it's not like the entire section,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like just the Jif peanut butter's gone,
Mm-hmm.
we panic.
Right.
Like we are panic buying.
Yeah.
We are buying excess quantity
Mm-hmm.
in in a belief that we're trying to get ahead of a shortage,
Mm-hmm.
inadvertently creating a shortage. And Ashley brings up, and gas. We did the same thing to gas
Yeah.
at one point. Is we kept, because that was that stupid Colonial Pipeline shutdown.
Right.
And everyone tried to tell people there isn't a shortage unless you create one.
Right.
Like point blank, that's where it was at, is there's not a shortage unless you create one by buying a crap ton of gasoline.
Right. And by putting it in laundry baskets. I mean, we've got a truck in the neighborhood and it smells like it's been covered in gas. Like, I don't know what this man has done. It didn't smell like that till after that occurred.
I don't know what has happened to that poor truck, but it is scary.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one that, like, if he's walking with a cigarette, I'm like, you need to move away from that vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, I know you survived Aquanet, all right? But move away from the vehicle. Like, that is too flammable. There is no way that is not flammable.
Well, and this is what happens. This is why we are in a global economy. This is why we are in a situation with pasta. One little country called Ukraine. They produce grain. Most of their grain goes for one product: pasta.
Yes.
Panini pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Everyone loves the Bernini pasta. Everyone loves pasta, pasta, pasta. What happens? They get Russian ward. What happens to the pasta aisle? It gets cleared. What happens to the box meal aisle? That hamburger helper stuff? It gets cleared. There is
moreover, I think we're also seeing the knock-on effects
mm-hmm.
that we've never had to really deal with of a global economy. Like, this was supposed to solve all the world's problems. This was supposed to make corporations rich and make everybody happy. Is anyone happy right now? Like, people are rich. We know that.
Of gas companies, they're happy as hell. They're making 4.2 billion
corporations more. Very happy. Except for the fact they don't have product to sell.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm sure Tampax is a little pissed at the moment. Okay, they could use a Midol and a hug.
And a box of dark chocolate. Why do I have to keep teaching you this?
But still. But the bigger issue becomes, there was a point in which we were operating stores more locally, more regionally, when our production was more diversified, and you did not have this like hamburger helper in like 8 out of 10 homes in America, 4 out of 5 homes in America. And that's what's for dinner. The Kraft macaroni and cheese wasn't the cheesiest and what everyone had in their cabinet.
Right. But it was also produced in 4 different plants, 5 different plants, 20 different plants. Now it's produced in 2. And if one of them gets a tornado hit it,
50% of your production ability just dropped off the map.
Right. This one plant of baby formula has caused a shortage in the United States to the point that I even have a list of formulas I'm looking for. And if I see them, I've been instructed to buy them and immediately ship them.
Yeah.
Natalie, I know you're in the background, but I got a question that's just burning in my pocket. What do you take in your tea?
Oh, Lord. Okay. So anyway, we'll get back to that. But no, this is the problem with the globalization concept. Like, it's not just harmful to workers. It doesn't just kill communities and towns and whole counties and potentially even whole states when that's their largest employers. Then it's not even a functional long-term business model.
Mm-hmm.
Because it cannot quote, like literally and figuratively, it cannot weather a storm.
Right.
And then it imperils everyone. Like, it's great you can produce, like, you can create this one factory that produces like millions of boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese. That's great. But when that becomes half of your supply for the world on a highly popular product that outsells every other product, and no, like what? I would say the next three competitors cannot combined make up 50% of Kraft's production line. Shutting down. No way. Or I'd say it cuts close.
Right.
But that means that's 50% of Kraft's current sales production line.
Right.
Being wiped out by the next three competitors.
Right.
Not that there's probably even that many competitors when you get to actually boiling it down.
Right.
Like, so many of these companies, like, here's the fun thing about our store shelves. So much of what you see on those shelves is all from the same company. Your Great Value, your Kroger brand, your name brand, your weirdo organic off brand, it's all the same company. It's all the same company. It's just repackaged.
Right.
Like, that's it for a lot of products. So sometimes it does, like, you would think it's like, oh, well, Jeff went down. Oh, that's okay. Well, how many other fucking companies was it? How many different forms of peanut butter is in that recall list? Because it's not going to just be Jif. I will guarantee it. It's not just Jif. It's going to be like at least, 5 different products? At least?
At least. And they feed into at least 7 more products?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
Just within Smucker's own product line, it feeds into more products than that.
Right.
Like, I want to go see how long this list is. Oh, only 18 entities. Nice. Oh, gosh. Yeah, peanut butter cups.
Now, I think there's going to be a shortage on Reese's because I know Reese's uses Jif peanut butter. But I wonder how much the stockpile is.
Actually, I don't think they do.
I think they do.
Don't ask me how I know this off the top of my head, but I swear to God, Reese's is a ConAgra Foods company. And they don't use Jif. And I could be totally wrong, but I swear to God, they're ConAgra. And ConAgra works, like, ConAgra is a giant, like, incestuous thing. That's why I know, like, they're not using JM Smucker. Because JM sucks. I know off the top of my head, JM Smucker cannot be a ConAgra Foods. Oh, no, I'm wrong. I am so wrong. I think. Well, now I know why ConAgra and Reese's are stuck in my head. Apparently, Reese's sued ConAgra.
Right. Because they're owned by the Hershey Corporation.
Okay. Oh, how did I not know that off the top of my head? All right. Because I know, sorry, I have a thing about ConAgra.
Okay.
They're a weird company that is just like one incestuous storm
Mm-hmm.
of like interlinking products, and like it's just it almost works out to like a shell game.
Right.
It's like they control their entire.
Right.
Which, I mean, on one hand, technically, if you're going to run a global business, it's
Mm-hmm.
great that all of your supply chain is another company within your giant, or
Right.
just a subsidiary within your own company.
Right.
But they're always a great big giant cluster.
Right.
They don't buy much outside of their own labeling.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also why ConAgra can make things at a price point no one else can.
Right. Because they're just paying to produce their own products.
Right.
Right. But yeah, one ties into another, ties into another, ties into another. This is what happens. This is why you can buy generics and they taste the same as the real ones. It's because they're made by the same company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, a family discovered one last joke. This was an interesting story.
Oh no.
In Polk County, Iowa, a Iowa family shares the final joke of their late father, but not everyone's laughing. Stephen Owens passed away in September of 2021 at the age of 59 and was laid to rest at Warren Power Cemetery in a rural Polk County, Royal Polk County. Conservatives controversy began when the family recently had a headstone installed on his grave. On one side, his name, date of birth, date of death, and family saying, "If you don't listen, you'll feel." On the other side of the stone is more of the controversial lies. The carved into the stone is an effigy, forever in our heart until we meet again. Cherish the memories known as our son, brother, father, papa, uncle, friend, and cousin. However, due to careful spacing in uh, the phrase F off can be found by reading the first letters of each of the lines vertically.
Oh, nice.
The Owens family
Nice.
says it's not profanity. At least it wasn't to their dad in the terms of endearment. His daughter says if he said that to you, it meant he liked you. If he didn't like you, he didn't talk to you. The family says Stevens didn't know about the inscription before his passing. That Steve didn't know about the inscription before his passing, but they sure he would be laughing about it now.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he knew. Like, unless it's like got rearranged a little when they did the carving
Uh-huh.
or the engraving for the headstone.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they had to rearrange the words and it really is just an unfortunate mistake.
Right.
Like, oh, that would be funny though.
The joke isn't a laughing matter, though, for some of the community and families of others laid to rest nearby. This cemetery lies in the community of Camptown and overseen by their board of trustees. According to the board, the Owens family and the monument company that made the headstone had both been told the marker cannot be placed in the cemetery. The board says it doesn't allow profanity on monuments. Those others who have a place in the cemetery have a right of dignity afforded to them, according to the email stated. The board says the monument marker placed the stone anywhere, despite it being denied. The board says they were told the monument marker told the trust they would have to seek their own legal action against the owner's family. The board says the community members are organizing their own legal responses. They do not want, nor do they accept the stone being in the cemetery. The board read, the community will not stop until they have the headstone removed. The Stevens family says they hope all sides can come to an agreement and allow the stone to be where it remains. They said they aren't trying to offend anyone of their tribute to their father. It is who he is.
Meanwhile, showing that HOAs can follow you into the grave.
Exactly.
Tell me I'm wrong. It's what it sounds like. It sounds like an HOA freaking out about something that unfortunately happened.
Right.
Like, and it, oh. Meanwhile, it's probably not the first time.
Well,
maybe for that cemetery, but I will assure you it is not the first time in history that a stone has been carefully carved.
Right. Carefully designed and carved.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at this, I'm like, are you shitting me?
No. Again, here's the thing. I could understand if you wanted to argue that the deceased is being disrespected. I could see that. The one decedent whose stone it rests upon. Like, this is their cemetery plot, this is the stone. If that were their argument, I could follow that.
Mm-hmm.
I could follow it. I could follow it. I don't think the neighbors are paying much attention, okay?
Well, I know, but here's the thing, and this is the bigger question. Who has rights over that property? And what I mean by that...
Oh, you think HOAs are bad? You ought to see a cemetery land deed.
I understand that, but who has rights over that plot of property? I can paint my house purple. The HOA can sue the hell out of me, but I still have rights to my property and do so. I don't have an HOA. I won't buy a house in an HOA. The next time I'm going to try to not buy a house in a damn city.
Well, there you go. But no, HOAs can actually do a lot, up to and including putting a lien against your house for the HOA assessed fines, up to and forcing a sale.
Right, they can, but the question here comes in is who has rights over the property, who owns the property, and what is to be done with the property. And that's where I think they're going to face their legal challenge.
And, well, yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Ultimately, like, again, this goes back to, you think HOAs are bad, wait till you die.
Uh-huh.
Because the ownership, like, it's the weirdest document ever. When you buy a cemetery plot,
Mm-hmm.
it's not even like you buy it, really.
Right.
You buy a right to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You effectively buy the right to be interred.
Right.
Somewhere.
Right.
Preferably there, but somewhere.
Right.
Ownership is a slippery eel of the law for a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you, like, you cannot force and compel the actual inhabitant, the resident of the cemetery plot, to do shit.
Right.
They're dead.
Right.
You can't, because we went through this a bit with the other cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you cannot compel the family really to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Cemeteries in and of themselves are like the weirdest legal entities.
Mm-hmm.
As in, again, ownership of a cemetery collective, all the cemetery plots,
Mm-hmm.
and the long-term care and maintenance, even that's hard to find and paint a line around who officially has responsibility for the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone hates the disrespect, but no one really has the responsibility in a lot of cases.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's hard. What do you do?
Right.
Like, what do you do?
Right.
Like, again,
You
and
maybe
you
have
can be
time, that's what
evicted.
you do.
You can spend all this money,
Uh-huh.
and you can still be evicted from your cemetery plot
Mm-hmm.
under eminent domain.
Uh-huh.
You can move a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how
Yeah.
does that make any sense
Mm-hmm.
at all? Again, it comes back to you bought the right to be buried.
Right.
Fundamentally, at the end of the day, you've bought the right to be buried. Someone has to bury you somewhere.
No, they don't. They can cremate you and you can set it on a shelf until you become a diamond. And yes, there are laws about scattering cremations, scattering ashes. There are laws about transporting them. You have to actually mark that they're specially handled to be mailed.
Oh, that isn't even the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the scariest phrase in the world is someone is going to pick up the ashes and transport them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just don't even want to do that. Like, if you are on a drug corridor with those ashes, please don't speed.
Yeah.
Please don't look suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not do anything to draw attention of police.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are carrying a powdery substance in a container as far, and it does, and in some cases it does not matter what accompanying documents they are. It doesn't matter if the container is sealed. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They will be opened and drug tested. It is the most screwed up thing in the world.
Uh-huh.
I understand that if they did not do this, then every drug dealer in the world would be packing urns full of cocaine. I get it. But when you are legitimately on the side of the road with the ashes of a loved one, not the moment
Right.
do you care
Mm-hmm.
about the world's drug problem.
Right.
No.
But that's also why, there are documents in the, because I know this because I took him out and put him in because we weren't paying the extra $400 to have them put in. So we get him in his baggie, in his plastic sealed container, and then his cardboard box. There are papers lined in each layer of this stating who he is, when he was born, when he died, and what is in the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So you pop open the cardboard box. That's cute. Set that aside. You then take a butter knife and you go over and you have to take and break the seal around the plastic box. Lift that up, remove the piece of paper, pick up the plastic bag, set it into the urn. We added additional stuff in there because, he needs to be able to smoke and we wanted him to be happy and he needed coffee and other things. And then we take the power of super glue and seal the urn with a copy of his paperwork.
Good job. Put the paperwork with it.
Yes.
But even at that, there is a likelihood, and especially because you've added.
Uh-huh.
Like, they may not open the internal plastic bagging. They may not. But if you were driving across state lines with your father in Earn, there's a possibility that gets opened. There's a possibility that even reading the paperwork about what is in there, any of the other contents are going to end up tested, as well as there's a very strong likelihood that the powdery substance gets field tested for drugs.
They can have fun opening that because I used 2 tubes of super glue. That asshole ain't coming out. So they can have fun trying to open it.
Is there some trauma here I need to know about? You used 2 tubes of super
glue. And he still steals your lighters.
Neither here nor there. What were you afraid was going to happen? Like it was going to get hot in there and the lid was going to fly off?
No, I wanted to make sure he didn't come out.
I would have thought that the, shall we say, bake at 350 for 72 hours process would have ensured.
It's 5,000 degrees for 3.5 hours.
No, it's not that long, actually.
Yeah.
No, is it? I'm sorry. I've never needed to know how long it takes to cremate a corpse. Okay, you know what? I'm not searching for this on Google. Screw this. No, I'm not.
The entire cremation time frame is 4 days to 2 weeks from start to finish. The cremation in itself takes about 3 to 4 hours, with another 1 to 2 hours for processing.
Yeah.
So 5,000 degrees for 4 hours.
Yeah, really. Bake at 350 for 72 hours. Same thing.
And you have to flip them halfway through. Your cremation center is not the best.
I'm sorry, what?
And Shannon says you have to flip them halfway through.
I'm sorry, I missed the comment.
Shannon down here.
No, I don't have it. I have the FDA link you sent out. There it goes. There we go. Sorry, I wasn't refreshing comments.
Shannon was thinking about going into mortuary work. Then you want to read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by, what is her name? She's known as Ask the Mortician on YouTube. It's a wonderful book.
Oh, heck. Oh, Caitlin Doty?
Yeah, Caitlin Doty. Get it. It's a wonderful, hilarious book. She is. But no, I wanted to make sure if there's any chance of imperialism, that bitch ain't getting water added to him.
I'm sorry, what?
If there's any chance of imperialism in the family, I wanted to make sure water wasn't getting added to him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Is there a stake through the bag too?
No.
Okay, just making sure. I was curious. Things I have to ask.
There is a Zippo in there.
Little canister of hairspray?
No.
Okay.
Lighter fluid.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Yep.
Don't get me out after midnight, basically. I'm pretty sure that's on their family crest.
Now.
What? Again, tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not saying you're wrong. So Ukraine moves closer to joining the EU?
Wait a second. Pause. Back up. I'm sorry. His urn has Zippo fluid in it?
Yes.
Why do you do these things? Why? Why do you do these things?
Fulfilling the wishes of the dead isn't a hard thing to do, honey.
I know, but I'm pretty sure we can't take your father anywhere, especially not on a plane.
Well, he doesn't like to fly anyhow.
I'm sure he doesn't, but we cannot. He is now one. We cannot ship him anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Like, now that I have this knowledge, if something were to happen, and for some reason I got left with the responsibility, now I know I can't ship him.
Right.
Oh my God. And I can't take him through an airport.
No. He doesn't fly. Or in his words, if he was meant to fly, God would have given him wings.
I'll set him on a hot plate, and by God, he will.
Have you seen the graves with metal cages over them? I have. They are not Aeson's family. That is a Victorian thing to protect people from digging up your body and using it for medical experiments.
Where is that? Yeah, vampire panic, satanic panic.
Speaking of that, that takes us on to another panic we're talking about tonight because it's Pride Month and we're seeing more of this bullshit pop up.
Well, yes. Although this, I do have to say, was kind of the end of one particular panic.
Mm-hmm.
So we go all the way back to the 90s. And Matthew Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes into this case, and it is not easy or simple or like there's nothing basic. But part of the defense, and I swear I'm pretty sure their defense tried everything. One of the defenses that was proffered in this case was gay panic. Which I'm sorry, I knew there was one more thing I wanted to pull, which was the success rate of a gay panic defense. Because I believe it has succeeded in the past. But this was definitely part of the tide turn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 104 cases between 1970 and present day where murder defendants used the gay panic defense. So let's clarify first. There's a little more than a handful of states that have never had a case. California, Texas, and oddly enough, Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
like random state, have had 6 or more cases attempt the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But based on analysis, defense attorneys who enter gay panic defenses can reduce a defendant's murder charges 32% of the time, even when the case or the homicide involves incredible violence. Though it does typically result in a conviction, since the charges were lowered, and the prison sentence is usually around 18 years. In the rest of the cases, the offender received a more severe sentence, including the death penalty, life in prison, and non-life prison sentences that averaged about 31 years. 4 cases resulted in acquittals, which suggests that juries might have balked at higher charges. So it's a risky defense. It was always a risky defense. It still, though, in some incredibly violent cases, meant that some people got off a lot lighter. and generally for lesser charges. So basically, imagine the worst possible nightmare murder scenario you can, and the life in prison you'd expect someone to get for it. And then the effect of a gay panic defense was to greatly reduce the charges and the sentences. So instead of life in prison, death penalty, it moved those down to like involuntary manslaughter or something of that, ilk. But this was the case. I honestly think if we had to pick a turning point, I really think Matthew Shepard was it.
Right.
Because it was the case in which, one, using the defense was a last-ditch effort. It really was throwing spaghetti at a wall. Like if you wanted to claim that the defendants had inept counsel, this would probably be it. Is because nothing about this case, considering that the defendants pretended to be gay to lure him, and then tried to in court claim a gay panic defense. Like, I don't think you like, and this is where I think for a lot of people it like, wait, what? Like, on one hand, you're okay with like pretending to be gay, which put you in the situation that you ended up in which you then turn around and claim you had to defend yourself because you were freaked out. How, like, you can't have both. Like, that's where I think, like, as far as a defense, this was a stretch. But I think it also did a lot to show just how crazy the defense was.
Right.
That it finally put it in a situation in which it never makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it was so far down a rabbit hole that if you allow it in this situation, it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's sort of like you rob a bank by pretending to have a gun, and then you go into court and try to argue that, well, you couldn't have, you didn't mean to rob a bank because you hate guns. It's like, wait, what? How did you, like, it's one of the two.
Right.
You can't have, like, it sounds like two bites at one apple. Like, you can't do both. But I do remember it as the case, for me at least, that because in many other cases, the defense almost got legitimacy.
Right.
That in that the defense was able to make it work and to make gay men sound so frightening and so horrifying, that gay sex in and of itself was so horrifying that of course someone panicked and defended themselves. But in this one case, it was so laughably used as a defense. It really kind of just blew up the idea that how can you use this as a defense?
Right.
Like, fundamentally. And with it came a lot of argument surrounding the idea that what are you actually afraid of? Like, fundamentally, for anyone to actually claim a gay panic defense, they have to fear being overtaken and forcibly put into having sex with someone else. Again, this was a case where Matthew was a little guy. He wasn't going to overpower anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
and
yeah.
this was and what is even more scarier,
Mm-hmm.
because this case in general shaped the generation.
It did. And it came at an awkward time too.
Mm-hmm.
We were moving into the 2000s. We were just on the verge of a lot of big, giant, massive things that we didn't know were coming yet.
Mm-hmm.
We were also exiting or beginning to exit like the era of HIV equals death,
Mm-hmm.
like with some serious momentum.
Right.
That it wasn't just theoretical. It wasn't just there's some meds that'll extend your life, but they have horrible side effects, and you're most likely going to die from the meds, just not HIV turning AIDS turning deadly.
Right.
Like, older meds tank your liver, tank your body. Like the dosing was weird, etc. So it like what you were being told at the end of the 90s is it's not a death sentence, but your life's really gonna suck.
Right.
It is what HIV medication at the end of the 90s looked like.
Right.
But not a death sentence. But we were also moving into more mainstream acceptance. Like, I think by this point, Ellen's already come out. If I remember correctly, my timeline for the 90s, I have to check. Let's see. Yeah, that was April 97. So it was 2 years after that. I thought it was. I kept thinking it was like 97, 98, Ellen came out. We were starting to see more serious gay characters. Like, we were starting to see more mainstream representation. We quit being, the perverts in the corner or the joke. Like, we were actually, we may not have been main characters,
Mm-hmm.
but we were starting to develop into strong second character,
Right.
like supporting cast, recurrent supporting cast. It was a weird time for this to have happened. Like, if honestly, like a year earlier, I think they probably would have gotten off with a really light sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of questions asked.
Yeah.
But that was the wrong year
Right.
to try a gay panic defense. Then it went one step further and made the whole charade sound ridiculous.
Right.
That you're going to do A, but then claim B.
Right.
Like, okay, well, if you're so scared of this, then how can you act it to lure someone to then claim you're so afraid of it? Like, you had to have known,
right,
that while you were acting gay to entice him to go with you, like, it's just confusing.
Well, it's confusing. It's terrible. It was a treacherous times, and I feel that at times we're moving back into them. Now, there's an article in private chat, and I got a little deeper into it.
Okay.
That Devin asked us to review.
Okay.
It's interesting. Man, Massachusetts court grants temporary protective order against actor Ezell Miller. The actor has been asked to appear in court in 2 states after parents accused them of grooming and abusing and imitating, including a non-binary child of 12 and a non-binary child of 18. Now, here's where the article gets confused.
Okay.
It's talking about a 12-year-old child, but Mix Ironside is 18 currently. Met him when he was 12. Okay. And this is one of those situations that's like, huh? So if you go to the TMZ article, and this is weird for TMZ to be more accurate than CBS. Because according to the legal documents, Takia Iron Eyes met him when Miller was 23 and she was 12. And the actor visited Standing Rock reservations in North Dakota. From there, the parents said she and Aeson developed a friendship and believe put Takia at risk. Takia's parents says Miller flew her to London in 2017. Takia was 14, Aeson was 25. The friendship continued. Kinnear's parents claim Aeson supplied underage daughter with alcohol, marijuana, and LSD. Not only that, but they claim Aeson, best known for Flash in DC superhero, disparate Takia's schooling to a private institute in Massachusetts so much she dropped out in December of 2021. The parents say they flew to Miller's Vermont home in January to get their daughter back and discovered she didn't have a driver's license, car keys, bank card, or any other items needed to navigate independence. They said they found bruises on her body. I'm wondering how they get into, and they alleged it caused them. Shortly after she got home, Takia's parents said she fled to New York to reunite with Aeson, and there the pair began traveling together to Vermont, Hawaii, Los Angeles, and the two were spotted at a club in Hawaii on video obtained by TMZ. As reported, Miller got arrested several times during their stay in Hawaii, including an incident where they allegedly attacked a bar patron. Not one of our patrons, a bar patron. In the docs, Tigger's parents state that Elsa uses violent, imitating, and threats of violence, fear, paranoia, delusion, and drugs to hold sway over the young adolescent. They claim Elsa also told Takia to solely go by Gibson, a nickname she firmly used with the family and friends. That's there when they say Elsa decided Tokyo a non-binary transgender. Okay, decided Tokyo was a non-binary transgender when she had previously declared herself non-binary, queer, gay. And there's a cut in an article. It's like read the legal documents.
Okay.
So this is parents trying to extort control over either an 18 or older child.
Well, and this is like, I think where we are here is, and this is going to be a little bit of a hot take and a spicy opinion. I think we're starting to enter the trans territory that probably 20 years ago gay men were in. Is this fear that every and I'm not saying that inherently applies here. I'm just saying the reason this is an article and everyone cares is there is a lot of concern and a lot of backlash against people who are trans. There is still a lot of effort and concern in trying to control people who are trans. I do think it's ill-advised, trans or not, and especially for a celebrity, but an adult who is unrelated, to move to that level of situationship, whatever it may be, towards a 12-year-old.
Right.
I can understand any parent, regardless of what actually did or did not occur, being very uncomfortable with that.
Right.
Like, unfortunately, like, it brings up bad memories of, you know, Neverland Ranch and Michael Jackson.
Right.
Like, that's forever gonna stick with people.
Right.
As for the 12-year-old, the 18-year-old, it's one of two situations, or maybe a bunch more in between.
Right.
Either this is a person trying to get away from an abusive family, or this is a person in an abusive relationship that their family would like to get them out of.
Right. And
And
it's not really clear because the news media isn't reporting it, but what it sounds to me is we have a non-binary trans child identifying with the star seeing the situation and trying to do something. We don't know, good, bad, evil, not my decision to make. My question is, why isn't my 12-year-old on a plane to England? Why is my 14-year-old on a plane to England without me? Why are gifts arriving at my house for a child? And why am I, after the child is over 18, because she's not, they are no longer 12, they are 18. This is 6 years in. With the light of R. Kelly, that's what they're trying to do, is make this a non-binary trans R. Kelly situation from the news media. Understand?
Right.
I have not really dug into it.
There's a lot here.
Yeah, there's a lot. These are hot takes.
Yeah. Well, and here's the problem. There's a lot in this situation. There's not necessarily a lot of complete details, at least not in this one article.
No, not in this. Not in many of the articles that they are linking to, and I'm really upset with NBC. You guys can do better reporting than this.
Well, but sometimes it can just be an ambiguous situation. In which, on its surface, it can look like you are trying to manipulate a minor.
Right.
Or have manipulated a minor that you're grooming.
Right.
But the other part of that is, okay, but what are you grooming them for, and did that occur?
Right.
Like, I mean, it's a weird position, and I really would have hoped there would have been someone to step in for the celebrity before this went as far as it did, to go, no, I understand what you want to do. I understand why you want to do it.
Right.
But here's the problem.
Right.
Is you're going into a really gray area where where on one hand, it can be completely innocuous, innocent, and this is a child that has just struck a chord. In terms of you feel compassion, you want to help, you feel compelled to help,
Mm-hmm.
but doing so at great peril.
Right.
It could be completely innocent and an overreacting parent.
Right.
It could be wholly, completely, and totally exactly what it's been described as,
Mm-hmm.
which is grooming and potentially abuse.
Right.
Or there's great potential for abuse to occur.
Right. Parent of 18-year-old. Okay, so the child is 18 currently,
Okay.
not 12.
Okay.
They met them when they were
12.
12. So that's 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, but then again, grooming doesn't necessarily stop because you turn 18.
Right. But my problem is 12,
Right.
18. There's a
Mm-hmm.
large difference between that.
Oh, there is. There is, but the argument can also be made
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's the frightening side of grooming,
Mm-hmm.
is that if you, it's basically fundamentally alleging like the toxic situation of love bombing.
Right.
Like if you need another way to think about it, it's love bombing directed at a child with an presumed intent of
Right.
nefarious act,
Right.
like basically a sexual or sexual assault or rape, for
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better word, because it is what it is at that point. Final destination.
Right.
That's what you're trying to do,
Right.
and that you're doing this love bombing with like that's your input to be allowed the undue influence.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's the rub. Did the parent give permission? Because I think that's what the parent is trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
That they may not have, or they didn't, like, that's where it gets a little wonky here for me.
Uh-huh.
And I think Brenda put the nail into it of what the real issue is where's, like, objecting after 6 years
Right.
is kind of like, well, but okay.
Yeah. You see, and
And
from
oh,
what I'm able to get, and this is how I work through articles, because most of the sources of this article I can't trust.
mhm.
I.e., NBC, 12 years old, 18 years old. Did you miss 6 years there in your headline? Sorry, most of the time, when it comes to my car keys, my driver's license, my debit card, oh, check with Joe. For a year there, we carried one wallet because I got tired of losing it. He had it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to need more grounds on this. But I'm interested on why a parent of an 18-year-old can go before the court. What is the reasoning there?
I think because what they're alleging occurred while they the person
Mm-hmm.
was a child.
Right.
So it's sort of, but see, even that, it's very confusing because it's like you wait until they're 18. You've let the situation go on for 6 years.
Ah,
Then,
now I see why they're going for conservatorship over this.
oh,
Okay, and I'm going to read their statement.
Okay.
I would like to make a statement to acknowledge this tragedy that is narrated in general public and the assumptions being made on my behalf by my family and friends, regardless of my stability and otherwise. I have dropped out broad 5 months ago. My friends and comrades William passed shortly thereafter. My mind was incredibly impacted, and I have needed space and time for the processing of my grief. My comrade Ezra Miller, for the entirety of the after-mentioned era, has only provided loving support and veteran protection throughout this period of loss. I am in no way or under any circumstances have ever been during my short-lived adulthood in need of conservatorship. My father and his allegations hold no weight and are frankly transphobic and are based on the notion that I am somehow incapable of comprehending thought or opposing opinions of those of my own kindling, worried about my well-being. I am now aware of severe emotional and psychological manipulations I was made to endure while in my parents' home. I am an adult and I deserve the authority feel authority over my own body. I'm tired of wondering wonder or not the cops will show up to sanction me on a daily basis. I've decided upon therapy and excitedly now engaged in conversations with mental health professionals about my anxiety and probable depression. This is no one's business. My choices are my own, and as the nature of the police investigation in my case, it is unnecessary and is an waste of time and resources. This has been brought betrayal and toxicity of my parents, and others have chosen to punish me with this has dispersely embarrassed and traumatized life-altering relationships in my life have been grossly affected. Some determinedly so. This behavior is unacceptable and needs to be called out.
Okay, that's making more sense. Is there's an attempt to file a conservatorship?
Yeah.
Um, I, that. I mean, that makes more sense out of it. It's still an ugly situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will grant it. This is not a good situation.
No.
I mean, because here's the other part. Because like I was trying to explain it earlier as like love bombing, but with the intent to harm a child.
Right.
The other ugly part of this, and like the element of like the undue influence, etc., is like a Stockholm syndrome.
Right.
Like, and so if you start with someone who's 12,
Mm-hmm.
you effectively love bomb them,
Mm-hmm.
like gifts and praise and all these things. And then that escalates and keeps going and keeps going. The question becomes, is that who that person is in actuality?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that like the person they met and then the person that they're with now is not that person
Mm-hmm.
in at least deed and act? Um, but the person who was love bombed, or in this case groomed, as one would use the term for it, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 year old,
Mm-hmm.
where they effectively loved bomb into a Stockholm syndrome that you're never going to be able, or it's going to take a lot
Right.
to break through this idea of who
Right.
the person they're with is. And that until you do that, but then I'm sitting here going, what?
Mm-hmm.
Other than physical safety
Mm-hmm.
and the potentials that they're being abused in this relationship, emotionally, physically, otherwise. I don't think they're going to be abused financially. Because, I mean, unless the child turned adult has substantial assets that exceed a current, fairly major star, like I'm assuming as an actor has a decent net worth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see where there's a conservatorship needed unless you're just trying to control actions. Not really the money, but fundamentally the money.
Right.
Sort of the Britney Spears situation is like the money was a big part of it, but then it was the day-to-day life that became a real problem.
Right.
That, Britney in conservatorship
Mm-hmm.
couldn't choose to have Chinese.
Right.
Britney in conservatorship couldn't have anyone live with them.
Right.
Britney, this all became the domain of Britney's father's decisions. That it wasn't just about the money, it controlled every single aspect. Like, what do you eat? What do you wear? Where do you go? Who do you live with? I mean, that looks like what they're trying for here. If there isn't a physically or emotionally abusive relationship, which is honestly what they've got to be alleging, because there's the financial abuse I can't follow.
Right. Emotionally and psychological manipulating is what they're occurring. They're saying that they are not in their right mind. See, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound really bad, and granted, I don't have enough to make a total decision, but on face value, what this looks to be is this is parents not dealing well with the transitioning of a child to an adult. I want to know what the benefits the parents had with this. I want to know why they're suddenly deciding to take conservatorship of this 18-year-old and how they're able to get it through. This conservatorship is becoming very toxic quickly. We've seen Wendy Williams fall victim to it. We're now seeing Iron Eyes fall victim to it. It's like everybody's trying to run for conservatorship.
Well, and here's my bigger question is, how do you get granted conservatorship when argumentatively you couldn't manage, parenting to a point to prevent this?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you already had conservatorship.
Right.
It's called being a parent.
Right.
To age 18.
Right.
You couldn't manage it then. So what about being 18 suddenly made this manageable as a conservatorship, but not as a parent?
Right.
Like, I don't track that.
Right.
Like, either that or honestly, conservatorship has more power than parental rights.
Right.
Like, is that what this case basically tells us?
Well, what this case basically tells you is that conservatorship is the new way to reclaim your child. If you don't agree with their lifestyle, if you don't agree with things, then that's how you can do it. Is you file for conservatorship. We go back to 1943 when it was a mental illness to be anything other than straight, and you claim it total as mental illness. They're mentally ill. Body dysmorphia isn't a thing.
Or it is. It's a mental illness.
It's a mental illness.
Well, no, and I mean that in terms of
right.
Like, that's the claim you have to make, or one of many.
Right.
But then it really just opens this up to being like, I don't even know how to phrase it exactly, but like the I call it the bigot disease, like, because you're never going to get out of it. Like, once you find a judge to grant it, how do you get out?
Yeah, you have to prove by multiple of evidence. I mean, look at the millions Brittany has proved to get out of hers.
Right. Well, and like, yay for having the financial resources to do so, but
yeah,
well,
that's what it appears to go on here on surface level, guys. I haven't done a deep dive. I normally don't cover articles that I don't have enough information on. And you guys have seen me work through this show trying to find out where we go from a 12-year-old. Parents get a restraining order against an actor for a 12-year-old to, sorry, she's actually 18. Well, they are 18.
There you go. And I don't know that it really, like, here's the thing, and I think this is going to be the weird catch. I think there's honesty in that. I don't think the parents have a problem with the fact that they are trans.
You're right.
I think they honestly have a problem with their child turned 18 and was no longer a legal child.
Right.
Like, I think to some degree they were positively benefiting due to the relationship.
Right.
Like, because do you remember that being part of, like, because that's what just struck me was the whole Neverland problem. The whole Michael Jackson Neverland problem is you had all these parents who didn't really seem to care until
right,
it began and it was weird.
Right.
And then it kept going, and then all of a sudden it seemed like, okay, I'm, being alienated out of this. I'm, like, whatever, Michael Jackson's a better parent, whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that's when the parents suddenly got this idea. And I'm not saying Michael Jackson never harmed a child. I don't know. I really struggle with that one.
Right. We still don't know the facts of the case. But this ties into, we're seeing this. We've now had two preachers and now somebody running for the House of Representatives make the statements that they want LGBT executed. We now have court cases alleging mental illness. Where is this going to lead us to? It's going to lead us back to Matthew Shepard occurring again.
And I don't even think at that level. Maybe at that level, like, it'll suddenly become the thing. Like, because we're seeing that out of Russia. We've seen that out of Russia.
We've seen it out of Russia. We've seen
people using, like, Grindr and apps and all this to lure gay men effectively to their deaths.
Yeah.
By pretending to be gay men.
Yeah.
And it's not a panic. Right. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a means to accomplish an end. So yeah, it's super problematic that I really hate it for the trans community that this is all getting framed in, like, trans grooming.
Right.
Like, this is horrible. Like, gay men have been there. We've been there. Like, did you see that after school special? Ooh. Because there's that whole video. Like, I think we even showed it on the channel, or part of it. At one point, Boys Beware. It took me a second. That was the most over the top, crazy, fear mongering that makes this, and literally sad. That and wasn't about, the fact that some adults who are men attempt to harm children, and you need to beware. It placed it squarely on gay men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, but here's the thing. Probably not too long actually, but long after that video was made, we started to understand that sexual orientation of a perpetrator, and it does not necessarily have anything to do with the sexual identity
Right.
of the victim.
Right.
Like there's this whole weird void there where it's not about the sex.
Right. And see, the problem starts with education.
Yeah. But
Education.
yet we had a generation that grew up on Boys Beware.
Yeah. We had two of them grow up on it, and they're now living it out in our government because we've got dinosaurs there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that only 13 states require it to be medically accurate? To be
Sexual health education? Yeah. Like that was our next thing, because we had also said we would go over the problems of sexual health education. So yeah, only 13 states require it to even be medically accurate. The advice and information that is given to sexual health education students.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hi. Literally what this means is that in all but 13 states, in 37 states, you can walk into a classroom and literally say that, condoms are never effective. Condoms allow the transmission of sexually transmitted infections. It's perfectly legal.
Mm-hmm.
And what we also see is that that's often been something of the claim that abstinence programs have made,
Mm-hmm.
is that birth control is ineffective.
Right.
And it's like, well, okay, let's define ineffective there.
Right.
Like properly used 99.9% of the time is pretty flippin' effective.
Right.
Like if I start my car over the course of like 5 years and 99.9% of the time I turn the key and the car turns on, I say I have a working starter.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree on that. I think if 99.9% over the course of a human being's lifetime they use birth control,
Mm-hmm.
it is effective. That's pretty effective. Like if you have hundreds, thousands of individual sexual acts
Mm-hmm.
performed with condoms, and out of those, you're looking at 10 potential pregnancies or transmission of illness. That's pretty effective.
Yeah.
Like the other 990 times,
Mm-hmm.
you were good.
Mm-hmm. What's scary is the sex ed legislation in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the United States, the states where sex education is mandated: California, Delaware, District of Columbia, Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska.
Oh, no. Not Massachusetts, Minnesota.
No, Minnesota. Read these. I'm getting them mixed up.
Okay. Mississippi, Montana, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, and West Virginia. And now Utah and Tennessee have some interesting marks here.
Right.
For Utah, okay, state also prohibits teachers from responding to students' spontaneous questions in ways that conflict with the law's requirements.
Mm-hmm. In Tennessee,
Um,
they only get it if it's 9 point. Sex ed is only taught if the pregnancy rate is more than 19.5%.
oh, well, yeah. Well, yeah, it's only required in that state if the pregnancy rate for women ages 15 to 17 is at least 19.5% or higher.
Right.
Or, sorry, not 19.5%, but 19.5. So literally there would potentially be areas that as long as enough, like this is so screwed up. Can you imagine being a sex health educator in that state, and for the total health of all your students, you almost have to encourage or be rooting for enough teenagers to get pregnant
Mm-hmm.
that it's mandated to be taught. Like, how screwed up is that? That literally you can have a generation that you teach and you teach well, and that rate drops.
Mm-hmm.
But because the rate dropped and you did your job, the follow-ons, the next cohort, sorry, not generation, but cohort, ends up not getting taught sexual health education because you did it too well the first time.
No.
What?
The other two sections, there's two other sections of this report that aggravate me.
Mm-hmm.
States where states where sexual education must be negative towards sexual orientation: Alabama, Arizona, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. A number of states require information on abstinence. A number of states stress it.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually a pretty large number that stress abstinence.
Right.
That is actually Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Washington, and Wisconsin. Like, please note, we haven't read a single state yet that's doing a good thing towards the sexual health education of students. Okay? None of these are helping people. Now, that's the ones that now, a side note to all of this, that's assuming that they get any education at all. And the education that most students get is also problematic even when it's good. Even when it's none of these things, that it's good sexual health education, which we still have a problem with.
Yeah. I'm trying to find
Mm-hmm.
the report. I know I've read the report that breaks the child suicide rates for LGBT teens by state.
Mm-hmm.
I want to compare. I think it's bad that Trevor Project has to have an escape button that'll close your window. And they have to put a warning on there that it can close the window just by hitting escape.
Oh, dear Lord.
Like, that's where we're at, people.
I'm trying to find it in infographic form. Oh, that's youth suicide in general. Sorry, it's often hard.
Yeah.
To find like the stats that reflect what you need to know. Like, I don't need all youth suicide. Well, but then again, here's the problem.
What about the all youth suicide? Let's look at that and see where we're at.
Okay, for all youth suicide, getting to that graphic. There we go. So for persons aged 10 to 24 in the United States, 2016 to 2018, the total U.S. has a rate of 10.3. The highest rates of suicide are actually New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Illinois, and California.
Okay. Where's Alabama stand on that one?
Alabama is not in the highest. Oh,
okay.
Wait, I'm so sorry, guys. I read the wrong states.
Okay.
That is a rate 10 and under.
Okay.
The states that I just read have a 10 and under suicide rate.
Right.
Alabama is one step above that with a 10.1 to 11.4, so either just under the U.S. rate or significantly above it.
Arizona?
Arizona is actually worse than Alabama at 11.5 to 14.9.
Okay. Oklahoma?
Is 15 and over. So a rate of 15 is where they're at.
Okay. South Carolina?
Just under that at 11.5 to 14.9.
And, that big state of Texas
is at 10.1 to 11.4, so just under the U.S. rate or well above it.
And when was that study done?
2016 to 2018 for ages 10 to 24.
Right. I'm saying it's probably significantly higher. I think Florida is also going to be hitting it with Governor Dumbass down there.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm not trying to work this sentence. I think part of me is somewhat surprised that Florida's rate isn't higher.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, Santos, this is 2022, so Santos just took office 4 years ago.
A lot of things have gotten worse in the last few years in Florida.
Yeah.
And we won't see the long-term effects of Don't Say Gay.
For 10 years.
Probably. At least a good 5.
Right. So what does all this tell us? All this tell us that, the lovely Supreme Court that we thought we won a battle at, we didn't win a battle, we started a war. The battle's not over. The battle is important to you talking with children. The battle is important for accepting children and going, it's okay to be safe. But also you have to know where that line stays. So you can't influence the child. You can't take them away from their parents. You can't go, you are an evil piece of shit that should not have a child. I'm taking your child to raise it. Because if so, Aeson would need a much bigger house.
Fair enough. And then we have to watch out because then we'd get accused of grooming.
Right.
Like, because we're not even safe from that.
Right.
Like, it's still, it's a mess.
Right.
Like, it's not the prevalent opinion, but you'll find someone who has it.
Right.
Like, it exists. It still exists. We still deal with it. It's still garbage. It has always been garbage.
Right. And I'm putting this link out. It's the Trevor Project. They're trying to do a lot of things. Go in there, check them out, see if you can help with resources. And we're not talking just cash. Sometimes it's signing your name to petition, signing your name to remind your congressman that, no, we have trans youth in this state. Governor Justice.
Yeah.
Remember that bill?
Actually, If I remember, I believe West Virginia leads the nation
Mm-hmm.
in trans youth. At least per capita.
I knew we lead in trans per capita.
Yes, we do. From 2017,
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia leads nation in transgender teens per capita.
Right.
So yeah, the New York Times, 1 in every 137 American teenagers would identify as transgender. West Virginia and Hawaii lead the nation with about 1 in 100.
Yeah.
So we are significantly more trans than the rest of the country.
Right. And that doesn't take in the rest of the alphabet mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to remind you and remind you and remind you, get out to vote. Pay attention to who you're voting for. It is no longer about who's going to take care of your labor, who's going to bring you new jobs. Now it's like who's going to want to have your neighbor, your podcasters, your psychic executed.
And I know that sounds like hyperbole. It really does. It sounds insane. But that's the road you travel down with hate. Like it unfortunately is. Just because your immediate neighbor doesn't want to kill you if they don't like you, they support people. They can understand people wanting to cause you harm. And then you have the people that want to cause you harm. They can support and understand people that want to kill you. Like, that's where this goes to. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It's frighteningly does.
Yeah.
Okay. You taking a question?
I'll take questions if we got questions.
We got a question.
Great. Sorry. I was trying to read over material.
I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're fine.
So, Devin, 31678, should I have stayed at my old job? Because I'm headed back.
Look here, Devin.
Or are you using the Lustrous Tarot?
I am not. I grabbed my gilded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. You're headed back to a better situation, and financially you'll be better. So no, you shouldn't have stayed at your old job. Nor would I go in there with my head down. They called you back.
So it sounds like absence made the heart grow fonder and made the opportunity better.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
If it's not on the initial, it'll be there within 3 months. So do you have an eye on me on the asshole, or are you going to take my hot pick?
Oh, I'll take yours.
Okay.
Send it over. I'll take it. Oh, you're very welcome, Devin. Oh, are you currently picking?
Yeah, I told you it's a hot pick.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you already had found it. But okay. Ooh. Am I the asshole for wanting to report my pregnant boss and quit? I, 27 female, have been in my job for 11 months. In those 11 months, I've started school and reduced my work schedule significantly. When I told my boss I was going to school, she, 29 female, seems excited. That was until she got pregnant. Then she opposed me working less because it would put a lot of stress on her and her baby. Still, I went to school with reduced work hours. She's in her second trimester and she makes everything at work about her pregnancy. She refuses to take out 2 small bags that weigh maybe 2 pounds because she's pregnant and it's too hot. A pregnant woman to go outside, she complains that soon she just won't do much because she's pregnant. If she has doctor's appointments she has to go to, and we're expected to cover for her even if she didn't schedule them correctly. 2 weeks ago, my uncle passed away suddenly, and his funeral was last Monday. I let her know prior to her making the schedule she didn't schedule me, and she responded fairly annoyed, telling me to find coverage. I felt that was kind of messed up, as it was a funeral, but I found coverage anyway. Today I had a kidney infection that landed me in the hospital. My husband texted my boss to let her know I was in the emergency room, and my boss, instead of seeing if I was okay, said, "So she's not coming in?" My husband told her most likely no, to which she didn't respond. Honestly, I was at my breaking point. My coworker and I are so burnt out on picking up the slack that she never wants to do. It's her world and we just live in it. If we're sick, it's a problem. If she's sick, we're expected to be kind and understanding. We're human beings. Either way, I called her and snapped, saying I didn't want to work for a boss who didn't care if I lived or died. That I'm still a human being and things happen and it's not fair to treat someone like this. She hung up on me. I'm planning on reporting her to my higher ups or HR and requesting a transfer. But honestly, I may just quit. Am I the asshole here? Edit, this probably doesn't matter, but when I started working there, I told her my husband and I were trying to have kids. It's been a really hard journey and lots of appointments and negative tests. It's been heartbreaking. She and her boyfriend have been together less than a few months and got pregnant on accident. I was happy for her even when she was talking about how she felt like she should abort because she didn't feel like the father would put in enough effort. A lot of the time, I feel like she's rubbing her pregnancy in my face. I got my period at work one time and got a little emotional and took a moment to get a little teary and then pull myself together. When she asked why I was upset, I told her the reason. She could have cared less and started talking about her excitement to learn the gender of the baby. It is slowly making me resent her. Not the asshole.
No.
Not the asshole. I'm sorry. Pregnancy is a very stressful time. It is a lot to go through. I will never minimize that. It is not, however, like the utility knife of excuses.
Right.
To be well treated and mistreat others.
Right.
Like, I think you get latitude with pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't absolve you. Well, but it doesn't absolve you.
No.
Of being decent towards other human beings.
Right. And see, this is the bigger problem I have with this.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, we do not have guaranteed maternity leave. And normally, the American person works up to their 8th or 9th month of pregnancy. Nurses have been known to work the day before they go into labor because of their facility does not give them time off until the baby is born. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do I think that's right? No, I don't. But at the same time, because every pregnancy is different. Some people who are pregnant, it is just like literally a cakewalk. Not everyone, but like, you know what I mean? There are those people, like, pregnancy, like, it ain't no thing. It ain't no thing. It's a normal pregnancy. You do normal pregnancy things. You swell. You have morning sickness. But it's not a disaster.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a little messy. Not a big deal.
Right.
Then there are other people. It is a shit show from the word go. It is one problem after the next for them. It is the worst pregnancy ever.
Right.
In To each their own. It's how it's going. It's how it went.
Right.
But I don't think in either case you get to just use your pregnancy.
Right.
Like I as an excuse.
Right.
I do wish employers were more sympathetic to those who needed it,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot less sympathetic for those who don't.
Right.
Like if you're going through the shit show pregnancy, or even in the attempt at pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going through the shit show ringer of fertility, then yes, I wish you the most sympathetic employment situation imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're having a general rule run of the mill pregnancy,
Right.
you're a human being who's pregnant. You don't have a disease.
Right.
You are not incapacitated. You are capable of doing many things.
Mm-hmm. And you should be, as a company, should be allowing more staffing, making sure that for the pregnancy safety of the person and the safety of the staff and the safety of the company, that additional staff there is to aid. So no, you're not the asshole. Contact your HR yesterday. Follow proper chain of command. Document every step of it. Don't quit your job.
No, but do try to be careful about calling and venting on your boss.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing I would say. Don't do that. Not because it makes you an asshole. I think it was well deserved.
Mm-hmm.
But it does create an HR problem.
Right. Go straight to HR. We are hired for human resource management.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on to our relationship advice. This one's a good one.
All right. He doesn't know I'm leaving. How do I break contact? I, 23 female, am leaving my husband, 26 male. We have been married for 2 years, and I just had our first child together. I'm leaving tomorrow. My sister and parents are coming over tomorrow while he is at work and helping me pack everything. I'm changing my phone number. I'm filing for divorce. I just had our first child and things started happening, and I slowly came to my senses. The breaking point was him telling me that I needed to give him sex the day I came home from the hospital. The birth had unexpected complications. I had to have an emergency cesarean, and my husband refused to come with me to the operating room. He told me he was disappointed that I couldn't manage birth. He has held the baby twice, not helped with any diapers, has done nothing. He refused to take paternity leave from work, saying that a woman should be able to take care of a baby. I'd like to say that his behavior happened suddenly, honestly, but the more I think about it, the more I was just blind. This has been happening for years. His degradation of me during my first miscarriage, his ability to laugh at my tears from fertility issues, the way he would call his parents and tell them that my body just couldn't handle being a mother. So I'm done. I'm leaving. If I can avoid giving him an explanation, I will. I wish he would torment himself for years wondering why I left. I wish him nothing but suffering and pain. All of this is easy for me to type as I feed my child while my husband rests peacefully, while my anger is white hot, while I'm tormenting myself with thoughts of the wrongs he has done to me. But how do I guarantee I will not go back when I'm lonely? How do I gain the confidence to never need his pathetic attempt at marriage?
Easy. Make it impossible.
Yeah.
Say, make it impossible. Move multiple states.
See, here's the thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate part is you have a child together.
Mm-hmm.
We've moved a little past default of custody,
Mm-hmm.
always going to the mother. We now have a court system, especially family court, that gets a little cranky
Mm-hmm.
when you try to make it impossible.
Right.
Because while I sympathize, and this is a horrible situation to be in,
Mm-hmm.
the harsh reality is you right now in this moment, despite how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
which is valid and I understand it, you don't have a record trail that proves abuse, so most likely you're going to have joint custody.
Possibly. Depends on where she files for divorce at.
True.
Because there is no law that says you have to file for a divorce in the state you reside in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope you have an attorney on speed dial already
Right.
to walk you through what you can and can't do before you leave.
Right.
Because here's the problem. I'm a big proponent of the first step in deciding to divorce anyone,
Mm-hmm.
to walk out on someone, is to find an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Not to pack your stuff, not to tell your family, not to no. First step, find an attorney. Find the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Get the legal advice, find out what you can and can't do. So
Right.
that you don't walk yourself into a situation where you lose custody, where you lose assets, where you lose anything.
Right. But from the way it sounds, it sounds like he won't try for custody anyhow if he can't change a diaper.
Well, but here's the thing, though. With the fact that he's calling his parents
Mm-hmm.
every time they've had an issue anywhere in all of this,
Mm-hmm.
I have a sneaky suspicion that
Mm-hmm.
he will file for custody. It'll be grandma intends to raise baby by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
So fundamentally, he fights for custody, at least in court. And then, were he to win, basically hands the child over to mommy dearest.
Mm-hmm. Again,
We've already seen the disaster she made.
Right.
And there are those who file for custody just to be vindictive. That is absolutely correct, Brenda.
Yep. So, get out, have a backup plan, make it impossible to contact.
Mm-hmm.
Cut ties, block Facebook, block. Like, there are things that people forget about.
Mm-hmm.
Me included.
Okay.
Blocking from business pages, blocking from social media accounts, blocking from WhatsApp. If you even think your ex even knows your soon-to-be ex even knows you have it, block it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and change your passwords. Side note, change your passwords. If we're talking about online accounts and means of communication, change your passwords, please.
Universally.
And I'm not saying this to sell an app. I'm really not. Get an app, though.
Yeah.
I don't care what app that generates passwords.
Right.
Because here's the thing, even though you have broken up, even though you have changed those passwords, when you've been around someone for a while, you can get a feel for what kind of password they might create.
Right. The other is since they are in a shared household, if you leave a device, reformat it.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. I still say, like, pump the brakes, find the attorney.
All right. All right. I'll be right back real.
Okay. But no, definitely pump the brakes, find the attorney, because otherwise you can end up with a very ugly, ugly divorce, breakup, whatever. You can end up with the fact that since you cut off all contact and left your spouse, and you did so with a minor child that he also is the parent of, be very careful. That's probably my biggest sticky point is the kid. Not that like the kid's a problem. I don't mean it that way really. It's just unfortunately that makes it more complex. You individually are an adult. You can choose to leave someone, disappear, go missing in a heartbeat. It's when you're a parent and you have a child with someone. Generally speaking, that raises more eyebrows and causes a lot of concern. Oh, and Devin points out, write a timeline of events. It's called an addendum.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And document as much as you can.
Yeah, Brenda also points out, document everything. First thing that Brenda told their best friend.
Right. And how do you tell them? By certified mail.
Yes. Oh.
You know, the days of a post-it note on the fridge is no longer good enough. You need to send it certified mail.
Oh, yeah. Well, either that, or if you are determined to leave, literally the minute you get your stuff out and you are gone and you have changed that number, please go straight to an attorney's office so they can get a process server out there.
Right.
Because the problem with the mail is you actually have to use a return address, and in this instance, you really don't want to screw with that. Because one of two things happen. You either A, use the address that you share with him, and that's going to raise eyebrows at the post office and create problems. B, as in, does it count? Like, there's some issues with certified mail. B, they have to send the receipt somewhere. You can request that information as to where the receipt went. So even if you move out, you don't want him to know where you're going, but you have to get that certified receipt somewhere. If they dig into that, right back to where you are.
Right.
Like,
but he already knows your parents' address. So you need to cover your parents' connection. Really interesting about, you know, every time I change my cell phone, my mother gets a bill call collection for me wanting my phone number.
Fun.
Imagine that.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing too, is, and this is towards anyone moving anywhere trying to get rid of someone, be careful who you give the new address to.
Right.
There's this thing called skip tracing.
Right.
Learned about it, I did not really understand, like, sometimes you would hear it in TV shows and stuff, and it sounded like this really involved process with a private investigator. It's not. It's a website. It's a few different websites. And it costs like 25 cents to skip trace an account. And literally all you have to know is like something that sounds like their name and a previous address, any previous address. and you can skip trace.
Right.
Not only it's a couple of things. One, it looks at like address forwarding and changes.
Right.
It also you can get proximity matches for old addresses.
Right.
So you can literally end up getting the information on someone's neighbors, family members. Like it goes into rings of connection.
Right.
That it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And they like, I will tell you now, debt collectors don't give a shit about calling people to ask for your information, and there's a lot of people who don't give a shit about you.
Right.
Is what you'll find out. They will hand out your phone number, your address, your employer. They'll tell everything they know,
Mm-hmm.
just to get the whoever is calling to not call back.
Right.
Or because they like the drama. That was a weird thing in debt collections, can I point out?
Mm-hmm.
There's this weird group of people. It's not everyone, it's a small group of people. But like skip tracers love finding these people.
Right.
They absolutely enjoy
Right.
harming others. They don't care who it is. They will gladly not only give out all your information, they will call you.
Mm-hmm.
They will call your parents and tell them about the debt collector who called or the so-and-so that called.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Screenshot those texts. Always screenshot the text.
And do not get rid of the device. If we have not heard anything from Amber Heard, do not get rid of the device.
No. Do not. Do not get rid of the device. Always keep the device.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, honestly, the best thing in this situation is to literally, instead of changing the phone number, turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it off. Just turn the phone off. Physically hit the power button and turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any evidence on there, hit the physical power button and turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Get a whole new device with a whole new phone number on your own account.
Right.
Please do that.
Right. And
Don't.
in other situations, make sure you have what I call safe behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Safe behavior is you have a plan. You also have a follow-up plan of where you're going. You do not share that plan with anyone, and I mean anyone. You do not release your new address. You do not sign up to your Facebook. You do not post anything about where you have moved to. You do not ever take pictures of where you have moved to for at least 2 years. You do not share your phone number with anyone unless they immediately need that. You set up an email address and they can email you if they are not within your first 5 friends. Meaning if you would not put them on Facebook as your top 5, they don't get your phone number, they don't get your address.
Right. It does require a lot of forethought, and it does mean you have to give up some things that many people take for granted.
Yeah.
And you cannot just assume that everyone's out for your best interest.
Right.
Yeah, turning off location services is important.
Right.
That is like, here's the mixed bag of that though. There's a fair number of things that just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can be a nightmare just getting the flippin' weather to update.
Mm-hmm.
Or to browse Walmart if you turn off location services.
Yeah.
Like, it's so flippin' weird. And then there's also a reverse of this, which is, and you can't even do that if you want a safety app like Life 360.
Right.
Or any other app that you can share with friends and family if you are concerned that this could get serious. Now, as for not going back to him, Can we talk about that for a moment? Just a moment.
Sure.
I don't know what to say on that one, because that's probably the most honest thing anyone can say,
Mm-hmm.
is the number of times it can take for someone to leave someone.
Normally 7.
Yeah. It's not always a one and done. Sometimes you're going to do this multiple times. Sometimes you just have to plan for it.
Right.
And expect it. That it's not that you get lonely.
Right.
It's that you second guess, you question, you start thinking long term, you start seeing someone or a situation as your best option.
Right.
The best I can say on that one is do your very level best to find better options and situations that allow you to be solely independent.
Right.
Because the sad part is a lot of people, even though you left husband number 1, you married his Xerox duplicate again.
Mm-hmm.
For husband number 2, and then husband number 3.
Mm-hmm. My recommendation is sit down and write yourself a letter before you shut the door for all the reasons you're leaving.
That way, on a cold, lonely night where you're worried about how you're going to buy diapers,
Mm-hmm.
you can open that envelope.
Right.
And let it be your V8 moment that it could be worse.
Right.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Yeah.
I mentioned some people can't be alone.
And that's sometimes the best lesson is to be alone. All right, guys. It's been a great week. We will be back with Psychic at the Plans on Sunday. I'm hoping to have a Luscious Tarot review up for you tomorrow. I'll be dropping it as soon as I can to Patreons. Yes, we have been dragged behind. Why? Because my computer depends on the internet to do half the shit I need to get done. I learned a very valuable lesson today. So we will be working a few different things. But otherwise, you guys have a magical weekend. Stay safe. Follow the rules. This is 1992 again, guys. And that's scary. We do want to say thank you to our Patreons. You guys are amazing. You guys also do us a solid. You support us through a lot of this. You've helped make Pride Edition go on. Yes, it is longer than it normally is. Yes, our shows are going on about 2.5 hours when we cover topics like this. You guys always bring awesome articles to us. And as always, you're amazing. Remember it. Your turn, Vanna.
Oh, Vanna gets to take it away?
Yes. I timed it.
You tried. Actually, I'm doing another thing. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Guess, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Dottie the Psychic, Tracy Van, and the Laughing Tree Grove. If you'd like to support the show, please visit pcspnetwork.com.
And guys, have an amazing, safe weekend. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Yeah, it's my time, yo time. Step into the spotlight. Get lit, yo. Let yourself go. Our time, high time. Gotta go big time. This is it, yo. Never take no flight time. Grind time. Take it to the street time. Turn the roof off. Get loco. Game time, win time. We gon' bring it home time. No regrets now. Let it all go. We bring dream, let's find